In the name of God, the merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to you all in our 15th year defending independent media. In the virtual world, more than 2,500 colleagues have registered to attend this 15th forum defending independent media. And here in this hall, more than 500 guests are present with us. So welcome to you all, and we welcome all who are attending this annual forum, ARIJ 15th annual forum, and we particularly welcome the ambassadors of the friendly and supportive countries, Sweden, the Netherlands, Norway, the former Prime Minister Taher al-Masri, and all excellencies. We also welcome each and every one of our honorable guests. I'm Firas Al-Tawil, a journalist and investigative supervisor, and I'm from Palestine. I'm Saja Murtada, a journalist and director of the Arab Network for Fact Checkers, AFCN, from the ARIJ team in Lebanon. Saja and I were honored to have stood on this platform last year, and we still carry with us from the previous forum fond memories. This year, Firas meets for the first time with more than 70 fact checkers from the Arab world in one place. We seek to connect the investigative journalist community in ARIJ with over 15 years with a promising community of fact checkers. In Palestine, we lost this year a soul that combined professionalism with humanity, who devoted her mind and heart to her work and her country. The first speech at the opening of the ARIJ 15th Annual Forum today will be delivered by Shireen Abu Akleh.
أقل من أسبوع هو عمر مدرسة بادية عين سامية التي أقيمت لخدمة أطفال تجمع عين سامية البدوية شرق رام الله. المدرسة أقيمت بإمكانيات بسيطة تحت جنح الظلام، بعيدا عن أعين سلطات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي التي ترفض منح الفلسطينيين أي تراخيص لإقامة مدرسة أو بناء في المناطق المصنفة جيم.
رحم الله
God,
شيرين رحمة
bless her
واسعة
soul,
إنا
Shireen
لله
Mohammed,
وإنا إليه
God
راجعون
have
الرب
given and
أعطى
taken. I
والرب
ask
أخذ
all
أطلب
and,
من
and,
الجميع
and
في
this whole and in
القاعة
order
وفي
to
العالم الافتراضي
stand up a
أن
minute of
يقفوا
silence for
دقيقة تصمت
Shireen's
على روح
in
شيرين
honor for
وأرواح
the
أكثر من
Shireen's
900
spirit
صحفي
and who
وصحفية
resembles
في كل
also
العالم فقدوا
900
حياتهم
journalists who
خلال
have lost their
العقد
lives
الماضي.
during the past year.
رحم
May
الله
God
شيرين.
bless her soul, Shireen. In an unprecedented step in the middle of last month, the FBI have opened an investigation about Shireen's murder. And this, while Israel tries as much as possible to trying, with the Shireen's family is spearheading the demand for justice from the United States. Shireen's brother, the son of Jerusalem, Tony Abartle, came to us especially. We appreciate very much your affliction and justice, and Shireen is our common goal. So the floor is yours.
Hello everyone. Dear distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests. The morning of Wednesday, May 11th, was not an ordinary spring morning. On that early morning, my sister Shireen received a message from her colleague that the Israeli occupation forces were invading Jenin refugee camp in the northern West Bank. So she went to the entrance of the camp to carry out her press duties. And there in the camp of Jenin refugee camp, where she has previously covered news on the Israeli occupation's army's attacks on her tens or rather dozens or hundreds of times, she herself unfortunately became a news story after she was targeted by an Israeli sniper with a fatal bullet as she was performing her job professionally. An insidious bullet ended Shireen's journey, which lasted for more than a quarter of a century, which she spent reporting the news of her Palestinian people and their suffering from the occupation. During this journey, Shireen was able to cover events and news from every street, village, and city in the occupied Palestine, covering all aspects of life. Shireen entered every home as she was sharing the joys and sorrows of her people. Her work was not confined to covering events inside Palestine, but extended to include Europe, America, and many Arab countries. There is no doubt that the assassination of Shireen and the attack on her funeral was a calamity for the family and for every free person who witnessed what happened. However, the most painful thing was the international silence regarding this crime, as reactions were limited to condemnation, regret, and at best denunciation of an event that managed, despite its horror and barbarism, to unite all of Palestine and to resolve the Arab identity of Jerusalem in the consciousness of Palestinians and Arabs. As for Israel, what is disgusting is that the Israeli media and others that supported it have adopted the floundering official Israeli narrative that has nothing to do with the truth and professionalism. The involvement of Israeli journalists and media outlets in this misinformation process is not only a violation of the ethics of the profession, but also a crime that requires accountability in order to preserve the standards and ethics of journalism. Those were the same standards that Shireen continued to defend until the moment of her martyrdom. The reactions to the assassination of Shireen clearly demonstrated the policy of double standards. That is why we demand from here the need to stop the policy of double standards and start holding the killers of Shireen Abu Akleh accountable, the journalist who was assassinated while performing her professional duty despite wearing a protective blue helmet and vest clearly saying press. However, all of this did not intercede for her, as the decision to silence her was stronger than all the rights and laws that concern the safety and protection of journalists in the field. The cold-blooded assassination of Shireen puts every free person and every official before their responsibilities by demanding the guarantee of freedom of the press, the protection of journalists during their work, and the accountability of the killers. Silence would only be encouraging the killers to continue the killing and assaulting the freedom of press and speech. Shireen Abu Akleh would not be the last one in this process. Finally, I extend my great thanks to the ARIJ institution for their achievements and achieving this conference, and to all who contributed to the organization of this conference. Thank you.
نكشف في التحقيقات الاستقصائية ما يحاول إخفاءه.
We reveal in our investigative reports that many parties try to hide, and this is one of the investigations by one of our independent partners who are specialized in investigative reports that rely on open sources professionally with high professionalism, and workers in more than 20 countries in the world, our fellows at Bellingcat. We are very pleased to have with us from Britain, Nicholas Waters, who runs the Justice and Accountability Department at Bellingcat, to present in 5 minutes the summary of his team's investigation to answer the question, who killed Shireen Abu Akleh?
Firstly, thank you very much for being here. It's an absolute privilege to be able to speak to everybody here. هذه شيرين أبو عقلة وكانت صحفية في الجزيرة وهذه السنة قتلت في جنين. When we heard about this event, it became evident that there was something not quite right about it. After the Israeli raid, which you can see some video here, it became evident that not all the information was available, and it seemed like people were not necessarily being truthful about what was happening or what had happened. And soon after Shireen was killed, the Israeli Foreign Ministry posted this tweet, which implied that she had been killed by a Palestinian gunman. So what we did is, at Bellingcat, led by Giancarlo Fiorella, we gathered all the images and videos we could find from this event, and we placed them in time and space to try and establish what had actually happened. So this is a map of Jenin. This is the location where Shireen was killed. And what we did is we placed these images and these videos, which had been posted to social media, onto this map. So as an example, this is an image that was posted from this viewpoint. And you can see that it looks down the same road that you can see within the map. And you can see also the Israeli forces and where they're located, which is slightly to the west of where the raid took place. Within this video, you can see Palestinian gunmen shooting at the Israeli forces. And in the background, you can see quite a distinctive building. And it's possible to find that building on Mapillary, which is a service very much like Google Maps or Google Street View. And by doing so, we could work out precisely where this video was taken. So that's the building. This is the viewpoint. And so this is the street where that video was taken. And we repeated this for every video and image that we could find, eventually placing who was where within this map. So here were gunmen, here, here, and then in the blue box was where the Israeli armed forces were located. And obviously the red circle where Shireen was killed. So this gave us an idea about where people were located during this event, but we need more information. And we did that using a method that we used previously to investigate the killing of Mohammed Gulzar on the border between Turkey and Greece. So when a rifle is fired, it actually produces two sounds. The first is the sound of the bullet as it breaks the sound barrier. The second sound is the sound of the muzzle blast. And it's quite distinctive, like that. And you can measure the time difference between these two sounds to establish how far away the gunman was, which you can see here. So the red is the crack of the bullet as it breaks the sound barrier. The yellow is the thump of the muzzle blast of the rifle.
اسحبوا 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 ولك عندي مشان الله تسحبوا اي وحدي عايز انا ميتي اسحبها شريف يا عمي
Within this video, you can very clearly hear that crack and that thump. We sent this video to an audio forensic expert to try and establish how far away the shooter was from the location where Shireen was killed. And he estimated that it was just under 190 meters away, which aligned pretty much perfectly with where the Israeli armed forces were. There were gunmen nearby as well, out to the east, but they had no view to the location where Shireen was killed. In fact, pretty much the only place where you can see straight down that road to the location where Shireen was killed is from the IDF position. And forensic architecture and Al-Haq went to Jenin and recreated this event, and this is what the marksman would have seen if looking through a scope down that road. As you can see, Shireen would have been clearly visible, including the markings on her bulletproof vest as well, identifying her as press. After we published our investigation, many other organizations and outlets published similar organizations also supporting these findings. Including the IDF, in fact. Since the FBI has now opened an investigation into the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh. For me, like, seeing journalists come together to investigate this event was pretty incredible. And it was fantastic to see this kind of journalism hold power to account. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. In honor of the name of Shireen Abu Akleh, the Board of Directors of ARIJ announces the launch of a new fellowship for ARIJ for the year 2023 in the name of fellow martyr Shireen Abu Akleh.
And now the competition is open to obtain a residency fellowship in Amman for 6 months for any journalist of a Palestinian descent who will be trained in the production of investigative reports. And we thank a Palestinian donor who preferred not to mention the name for sponsoring the expenses of this fellowship. This fellowship is added to the Net Fellowship with ARIJ that is continuing for the 5th year in a row for fellows and colleagues from the Arab world, and the 100 Watt Fellowship, which begins its 3rd year with journalists from Jordan who are working now in the forum's newsroom and wear the newsroom logo as they move around. The hashtag of the forum this year is hashtag 2022, so write on all social media, please. And there will be a monitoring of the top tweeters and the interacting accounts of the last day, and then there won't be any rewards. Please help us to raise our voice by using the hashtag ARIJ22 when posting any information, news, or photo. You've started using the hashtag ARIJ 2022? More than 50 donors and partners contribute to the support and success of ARIJ Forum this year. Thanks and gratitude to all those who believe in independent media and the support for accountability. This year was not an easy one on us ARIJ, and we went through difficult circumstances on many levels. But with the efforts of a small team consisting of 30 colleagues who work hard across the 9 countries around the world, we are pleased to share with you the conclusion of this year.
أثر أريج 2022. خلال عام 2022 نشرنا أكثر من 40 تحقيقاً استقصائياً و30 تقريراً معمقاً و30 بودكاست و50 تقرير تدقيق معلومات. كما تابعنا عن كثب لأشهر تدريب أكثر من 160 من الصحفيات والصحفيين الاستقصائيين وأكثر من 70 مدقق معلومات، وشملت تدريباتنا المتنوعة أكثر من 1000 متدرب ومتدربة، نصفهم من الإناث. عام 2022 حصلت أريج على 20 جائزة وتقديراً دولياً وعربياً، نذكر منها: حصد تحقيق أريج ممرات موت شرق القاهرة، والذي نشر باسم مستعار، على جائزة سيجما لصحافة البيانات، وهي الجائزة الأهم في صحافة البيانات عالمياً. وتحقيق أريج هو الأول عربياً الذي يحصل على هذه الجائزة، ليتوج جهود فريق أريج على مدى السنوات الماضية في تدريب الصحفيين ومدققي المعلومات في الوطن العربي على صحافة البيانات والمصادر المفتوحة. وصفت لجنة التحكيم تحقيق أريج الحاصل على الجائزة بالقول:
يمكن أن تسهم صحافة البيانات في إنقاذ الأرواح، وهذا ما عمل عليه التحقيق. لقد وضع معدو التحقيق وأريج أنفسهم في طرق مؤذية لمواجهة المسؤولين في بلد يوضع فيه الصحفيون في كثير من الأحيان داخل زنزانة السجن لتجرؤهم على التحدث إلى السلطة.
كما أنه في نفس جائزة سيجما وصل للقائمة القصيرة تحقيق أريجي آخر، هو عظام الرقبة، لصحفيين بأسماء مستعارة من فلسطين. أيضاً 3 تحقيقات أريجية حصدت جائزة الصحافة المصرية من نقابة الصحفيين المصريين هذا العام، وهي تحقيق خانة الديانة، وتحقيق قابلة للاشتعال، وتحقيق جنازات وهمية. خلال هذا العام أيضاً صنعت أكثر من 10 تحقيقات استقصائية و4 تقارير معمقة أثراً وتغييراً على الأرض، نذكر منها: المكتب الوطني لمكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والمالية في المغرب يفتح تحقيقاً مع 18 مسؤولاً من وزارة الصحة و13 من أصحاب الأعمال والموظفين بناء على أوامر النيابة العامة المختصة بشبهة الاحتيال في قطاع الصحة، وذلك على خلفية تحقيق أريج، البوابة الحكومية موصدة أمام الشكايات لأكثر من عام بسبب خطأ تقني. نيابة تعز في اليمن تصدر لائحة اتهام ضد مدير مستشفى وطبيب غير مختص على إثر ما كشفه تحقيق أريج بزنس في مستشفيات يمنية أول العلاج البتر.
كان بس تعيش لعبات، أصلا قال لهم بالحدود الجنية ضروري إنهم يعملوا لي عملية تجميل.
بعد نشر تحقيق خضار بالسموم في الأسواق الفلسطينية، اهتم ديوان الرقابة المالية والإدارية في فلسطين بدراسة الأمر، وهو الجهة الرقابية الأعلى في البلاد، وأصدر تقريراً أكد نتائج تحقيق أريج. المدير العام لدائرة الجمارك الأردنية يعد بحل مشكلة تأخر تخليص الملابس بعد تقرير أريج الساحة الجمركية رقم 4 في العقبة عقاب للسائقين. والسلطات اليمنية تبدأ بإعادة تأهيل الأجزاء الأكثر تضرراً من الطريق الذي يربط بين العاصمة صنعاء والميناء الرئيسي للبلاد في الحديدة، وذلك بعد نشر تحقيق أريج موت بطيء لشريان حياة صنعاء الحديدة طريق آيل للسقوط. فخورون بالتعاون العام الجاري في تدريب وإنتاج ونشر تحقيقاتنا الاستقصائية مع العديد من المؤسسات الإعلامية العربية والدولية ومؤسسات تدقيق المعلومات. في أكتوبر هذا العام تم بث تحقيقنا حول العمالة وشبهة الاتجار بالبشر في القواعد الأمريكية في الخليج.
Now to our NBC News investigation. Disturbing allegations that foreign workers at some U.S. military bases overseas are the victims of human trafficking. Our report, produced in collaboration with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the Washington Post, and Arab Reporters for Investigative Journalism.
أثر أريج على مستوى تدريب الفرد وتمكين المجموعة وتشبيك المؤسسات ووضع التحقيق الاستقصائي العربي على الخارطة الدولية وصنع أثر على الأرض العربية رغم كل التحديات على مدى 15 عاماً. بكم ومعكم ولكم وبثقتكم وحبكم ودعمكم نستمر.
ما شاهدناه ليس جهد فريق أريج.
What we've seen is not the effort of the ARIJ team alone, as the ARIJ team is like a maestro and an orchestra. But the orchestra is you, me, you and us, investigative journalists, fact checkers, supervisors, lawyers, photographers, designers, and all who are working in the sequence of production from A to Z, in addition to translators and all who support investigative journalism. We ask colleagues in the virtual world to put images and colleagues in the room to stand up and remain standing when I mention the name of their countries. If there's a Lebanese who is living in France, please stand up when I say Lebanon. I start from Morocco and I ask colleagues to stand up. Mauritania, Morocco, Morocco, we congratulate you for the World Cup. Algiers, Tunisia, and from Libya. Please keep standing. And I ask all of you, please, to welcome all. And now the largest number of participants on the ground here from an Arab country, which is the mother of the world. Please keep standing. This is punishment. And from the Levant, we have with us in the virtual world and here in the hall from Syria. from Lebanon. From Palestine, a special greeting to Palestine. And from Jordan, a greeting of love and gratitude to Jordan for the generous hosting. And now we move on to Iraq. Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar, and Oman. And a very special greeting to everyone who have arrived despite the unusual circumstances of war from Yemen. Thank you very much. Traveling and arriving here in person, coming to Jordan is not easy, despite all the conditions of conflict and visas and borders. It is unusual to hold a challenge, to hold an international Arab conference on Arab soil. For more than 12 years ago, Sweden has been supporting ARIJ, and we are honored to have been friends with ARIJ over the past 3 years, a diplomat with long experience in the Middle Eastern issues. The Swedish ambassador in Amman, Alexandra Redmark, the floor is yours, Your Excellency.
And maybe first to all of you who aren't fortunate to be in the room, it's really a great atmosphere already, so I think this bodes for some very great days together ahead. But let me start by saying dear Rawan and dear ARIJ team, and hello to all participants and partners and friends who are here, physically and virtually. And I would like to start by thanking Shireen's brother for being here with us, and also to express my deepest condolences to you and to your family. So thank you for that. And this is the third time for me to be here at this forum. And as I've said before, I'm always sincerely humble and very honored to be amongst you. Over the past 15 years, I've witnessed this forum grow bigger and more dynamic and more relevant, despite so many obstacles. And for that, I want to acknowledge the hard work of Rawan and the team, but also to all of you who are here today and in the past years to make this forum into what it is today. And this year's theme of defending independent media is unfortunately just too accurately reflecting the challenges facing journalists and media today. The theme reminds us, first of all, of the importance of truth and objectivity in journalism, not least as a counterweight to those who want to instrumentalize and distort information to serve their own interest. The theme also asks us something, to all of us, and that is to stand up and to defend independent media. And here, we all have different roles to play. So as a Swedish ambassador, my role is to carry out a foreign policy that has protection of human rights as a cornerstone, and where standing up for independent media is a fundamental democratic principle. And it is absolutely crucial for transparency and accountability. And independence, of course, requires freedom, freedom of expression, freedom from oppression, and freedom of assembly, just to mention a few human rights relevant to this year's theme. And these are international, national, local, and individual issues. We see, however, the high price being paid by those who fight for these rights. Also, journalists and media workers striving to give those pictures, those stories to all of us of what is really happening, and we've seen many examples already here today. For doing your job, you often face threats and violence in all forms, physical, digital, mental, and legal, and in some tragic cases, it has even more serious consequences. In the UNESCO report, Journalism is a Public Good, it points out that these trends unfortunately continue, and journalism remains a deadly profession for some. UNESCO has also recorded a global impunity rate for almost 90% for the killing of journalists, and journalism imprisonment is at a record high. And UNESCO states that these are threats that silence. And unfortunately, women journalists are even harder hit. 73% of women journalists responding to a recent survey had experienced online violence in the course of their work. And this is simply not acceptable. So working with safety and protection for journalists is as crucial as supporting journalists, not the least for those covering conflict situations. So all of this as a backdrop, just to say why we are proud to have been a partner to ARIJ ever since the beginning. It is important for Sweden to lend our support to you, to all of you, and your crucial work. And we are many that see and appreciate and support your work. And it is not by coincidence that I'm here today together with my colleagues from Norway, from the Netherlands, from Ireland, and from the European Union. So let me end by just very humbly acknowledging your professionalism, your professional achievements, and thanking you for your courageous and very inspiring work. And I wish you great days ahead, and thank you for having me with you again. So thank you.
هذا العام كان فريق أريج يدير بالتوازي 15.
This year the ARIJ team was managing 15 projects in parallel. Please watch.
تحرش وتحرش إلكتروني، تهديدات ومحاولات إسكات.
لا تقتصر إجراءات السلامة المهنية الصحفية للصحفيات والصحفيين الاستقصائيين على العمل الميداني.
الحماية القانونية التي قد تكون متاحة لمطلقي الصفارة تعتمد على 7 عوامل.
أريج 16 مشروعا.
ARIJ 16 projects in 2022. Part of these projects I'm proud to have provided the training is the 100-watt project supported by the Netherlands Embassy in Jordan. We are honored to have the diplomatic, His Excellency the Ambassador of Netherlands in Jordan, Mr. Hari Farfar, please.
Good morning, my dear colleagues from ambassadors of Sweden, Norway, Ireland, the EU. Very pleased to be with you here today as my partners and friends. I also wanted to recognize Ravan Damen, the Secretary General of ARIJ, and her amazing team. And congratulations what you have pulled off in this forum. And I also wanted to recognize you, members of the International Circle of Journalists, both here in Amman, as well as those who participate online. Thank you for offering me an opportunity to briefly address you at this important forum. First of all, of course, please allow me to also offer my condolences to the family and the loved ones of Shireen Abu Akleh. Her death is a tragedy which regretfully does not stand on its own. And we're very glad to note Shireen's brothers' attendants and family members, and as well, thank you very much for your very important speech. Ladies and gentlemen, the news we read and the stories we hear and share every single day form a central part of the fabric of any society. Receiving proper and factual information and being able to engage in free and open discussions on anything nurtures a strong democracy. A free and independent press is key in this context. It is my pleasure to be amongst you today and to together acknowledge and celebrate the hard-fought efforts and achievements of Arab journalists and the importance of investigative journalism around the world. It is important to assure you of the continued Dutch support to human rights and freedom of expression. I recognize my partners and colleagues from Sweden and Norway who have always been with me on this point, and also, of course, the EU and Ireland. But also, the EU's commitments reflect our joint approach in supporting independent media and human rights. The press provides the platform for a multiplicity of voices to be heard. And the eyes and ears of the public, the value of a free press is precious. Worldwide, journalists are increasingly vulnerable and unable to perform their mission safely and openly. At the international level, but also at home, the Netherlands remains committed to providing consistent support to freedom of speech, both online and offline. It is our goal to continue supporting partners, like for instance ARIJ, but also Free Press Unlimited and Harbor, among so many others, that dedicate themselves to empowering journalists by providing those means and knowledge to enable them to carry out their cherished professions. At the same time, it is the responsibility of all of us to protect a plural and diverse media landscape and maintain a truly free press in order for our societies to flourish. It is for these reasons, and many more, that today's event, the ARIJ Annual Forum, is priceless. Training journalists, networking with leaders of global investigative journalism movement, and providing a platform for sharing reports. Moreover, I feel the forum provides a platform for mutual support. The public relies on you journalists who work bravely towards transparent, factual, and accountable news reporting, which is at the basis of our everyday life and political dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude with a sincere expression of gratitude to all those of you who offer solid reports in newspapers and on television, or through so many other means, like for instance podcasts. It is thanks to your bravery dignity and perseverance that we learn and reflect on our surrounding context and on larger developments. The war in Ukraine has once more underscored that manipulation and fake news can only be counterbalanced by brave and independent investigators and journalists who share the facts on the ground with the public. And lastly, if her brother would allow me, I would like to leave you with the words of Shireen. I chose journalism to be close to people. It might not be easy to change the reality, but at least I could bring their voice to the world. Thank you.
Thank you, the Ambassador of Netherlands in Jordan. We had the luck this year to host that Norway hosted the 20 colleagues from ARIJ to network and learn at Norwegian networks and forums for international investigative and fact-checking forums. Thanks to the Norwegian Foreign Ministry and to all the Norwegian partners whom we work with in ARIJ since 15 years. The word now to the Norwegian ambassador in Jordan, Mr. Spellenberg.
Dear colleagues from Sweden, Netherlands, Ireland and the European Union, dear friends and dear journalists, it is actually very, very nice to be back here again this year and to see what we are finally back after COVID to be present. And I must say, Rowan, that the turnout here and online is very impressive once again. So let me also just start by thanking Anton Abu Akleh and to express my condolences for the family of Shireen Abu Akleh. And I just also, I want to say that the partnership that started between Norway and ARIJ in 2018 continues to provide fruits. And we are so proud of this partnership. And I must say that through this partnership, I was fortunate enough to last night attend a graduation ceremony here at this very hotel with Rowan and the team, and to see for myself what a great work you're doing on training journalists from different Arab countries. I think there were graduates from Yemen all the way to Morocco. So it was, and I see many of them here this afternoon. And we saw also some of the impressive cooperation that we've had with Norway and ARIJ over the years. We live in a time where access to information is taken for granted by many, but where navigating information to find reliable and truthful sources can be indeed complicated. And this has served as a reminder of the importance of independent media. As a society, we rely on media outlets and journalists to adhere to high standards of professionalism, transparency, and accountability. They, or you, provide us with the common understanding that we base our political discussions and indeed our everyday life on. The proliferation of fake news challenges this common understanding and leads to misinformation and increased polarization. We saw it happen during the COVID-19 pandemic, and today we witness the information war happening over Russia's war on Ukraine. Fact-checkers and independent media do an invaluable job through debunking false claims and providing us with objective and truthful information. Independent media, in particular, plays an important role as society's watchdog. It is impossible for us as citizens alone to keep our authorities accountable on all issues, and we rely on independent media to diligently monitor and carry out investigative journalism. Therefore, it is indeed worrying that we still see strict public regulations infringing on the freedom and independence of the press in at least 160 countries, according to UNESCO. In addition to this, we see new legislative frameworks in many countries curbing freedom on the press and of expression online, which, combined with the increase in internet shutdowns, point to a worrying trend for independent media. Ladies and gentlemen, with this backdrop, Norway aims to be among the leading nations in promoting freedom of expression and independent media. I would also like to highlight that in our international strategy in this field, adopted last year, it has 4 priority areas. 1, freedom of expression, an independent and critical press, the right to know, and a safe environment for freedom of expression. I am proud that Norway is supporting the impressive work of ARIJ in Jordan and the Arab world. Your work on supporting quality investigative journalism throughout the region is only increasing in importance. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the important work of brave journalists, many of whom are here today. The quality journalism that you produce in difficult contexts where you are subject to great risk is invaluable. So once again, I would like to thank ARIJ for organizing this forum once again, and really with the great atmosphere that is here and a great turnout. And I look forward to getting your perspectives on what is needed and how we can best support this important work that you're doing. Thank you so very much.
شكراً سعادة السفير. ماذا ينتظرنا في 2023؟ الشيء اللي الكل بينطره كل سنة فراس. دبلوم صحافة البيانات، نعلن عن فتح الباب للتقديم له في
So we're opening the floor for it in its 4th edition. You can apply for it now. This year, 600 journalists have applied, and 25 of them were accepted to enter the intensive 6 months trainings. Welcome to competition and the new diploma. Welcome to you all once again, and we salute all Arab countries and all who are with us here, and Sudan, of course. Because we missed mentioning it, we're always respected and valued. We also promise you in the forum of next year, 2023, to launch the ARIJ strategy for artificial intelligence with the support of the Google News initiative. We especially thank Google for its generous sponsorship of this forum. What are we pleased to announce too? A lot. We're pleased to announce the signing of an agreement of understanding between ARIJ and the University of Oxford in framework of artificial intelligence and automation project and advanced search for documents and official gazettes we are currently working on. And the third work in artificial intelligence is our project Dalil in the Arab network of fact-checkers, AFTN, with our main partners Siren and JOSA with the support of the EU. We are pleased to have with us today Simon Boysen-Müller, representative of the EU Commission.
Good day, everybody. It's a great honor to be with you here today as a partner of ARIJ. I want to start again with also expressing my condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues of Shireen Abu Akleh. It was a great loss for all. The European Union is committed to improving quality of journalism, to support independent media and to promote media literacy in the EU and around the world. In September this year, the European Commission proposed the European Media Freedom Act, a novel set of rules to protect media pluralism and independence in the EU. The proposed regulation includes, among others, safeguards against political interference and in editorial decisions and against surveillance. The EU condemns violence against journalists and opposed legislation, regulations and political pressures that limit freedom of expression, thus protecting the rights of journalists, bloggers and human rights defenders, based on principles of equality and non-discrimination. Furthermore, respect for freedom of expression is integrated in EU policies and development programs. In the MENA region, we support several initiatives that aim to facilitate the work of independent media outlets, journalists, and to advance regional collaboration, so including the support for ARIJ and the Arab Fact-Checkers Network. With our conflict prevention and peace-building funding that I'm representing here today, we support 4 new projects focusing on enhancing the resilience of civil society actors in the MENA region, with the aim to better counter harmful media content and leverage the potential of information and communication technology for peace, underlining the important role that access to reliable, conflict-sensitive information has on all our societies. Our engagement with partners to support independent media has become even more relevant following the disinformation pandemic we saw in connection with the COVID pandemic, and since the war of aggression of Russia against Ukraine earlier this year. In our view, strong, independent and local media actors are crucial in our collective efforts to counter disinformation and harmful narratives. Local actors, whether media or civil society organizations, are best placed to understand, expose and respond to manipulative tactics. And for that reason, I'm very honored to be here today with you, and I wish all of you a fruitful forum in support and celebration of independent media, fact-checking and investigative journalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now this is we have a caricature. Peter will be with us today, every day from 4 to 8 can draw you individually. But so who are you encouraging today, Brazil or Cameroon? Well, I know I of course I support Brazil, but we are promising you of the different atmosphere today. At 8 we will meet here today to go and watch the match of Brazil and Cameroon. Please get your badges with you. We've visited the place, lovely atmosphere, so we invite you all to join us. Although this game might not be very competitive because things are well known, the result is well known, but it's nice to be together with them. And those who are with us virtually today, every day at 5, there's a Q&A session that will be held online only. So those who are with us on this can pose their questions through Zoom. So this is just to support the virtual world. And now to the person who always supports us, who has always great ideas, I'm very happy to present to you ARIJ Director General Rawan Adami. In the name of God the Almighty, Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellencies, ambassadors for countries, regions, friends of ARIJ, supporting of ARIJ, supporters, donors, and all. I'm very happy to be with you today in the virtual world and the real world. I'm very happy and thankful for your time and the effort and the expertise that has been that's witnessed here in this hall, and which will benefit the journalists and fact checkers who work together and train with us. Yes, in this very hall, there are more than 500 colleagues. But in the virtual world, there are more than 2,500 participants, colleagues that are not allowed, most of them, to travel along, and they are banned to carry a passport because they work in investigative journalism and fact-checking. And some are also, they get their passports delayed to get them for different reasons, or denied visas or to enter the border. So a special salute to them all in the virtual world. In this year, we've trained more than 227 days, which means that more than 60% of the year we've been training in parallel. And we've trained more than 7,000 colleagues. 44% of them are females. To you, the number could be any number, but to me, I like and I value very much every and each one of you and them, because they wanted to learn and they wanted to develop themselves and to develop their careers. And I would like here to mention in particular our colleague who have worked on that report, pesticides that are banned to be on the tables of Lebanese. When she submitted an application to renew her passport, they gave her the appointment in 2024 in order to renew this passport. And every time when she wants to deliver the training, electricity cuts off. And then and this is the case that's happening. And many other colleagues from Palestine, Iraq, and Yemen, and other countries pass through the same circumstances. I thank in particular more than 100 trainers who have trained with us this year, when 45% of them females and 60% are Arabs. And I will give it two quick as examples. Our colleague Henrik Ronnet had Henrik, where are you? On constructive journalism. Henrik, are you with us? Please stand up. Henrik have worked for 5 days to preparation and hundreds of emails. Also, our colleague Ithar Al-Adam. Are you with us here? Ithar. Yes, here she is. And Ithar, so used to wake up at 7 a.m. To be in the office and to train on data journalism and work. So all trainees did not like her at the beginning, and then they loved her when they were done with the trainings. 160 journalists, we followed up with them on more than 6 months, over more than 6 months. 60% of them are females to produce these investigative reports. And more than 50 of them stayed with us 2 to 6 months in different fellowships. 70% of them were females. And I remind here our colleague Muad. Muad, are you here? Stand up, please. He's a fresh graduate in media. He joined this fellowship for 6 months, and he never gave up. When they told him that you should not be there, he would visit them 1 or 10 times to get the information he needed just to come up with his report. 700 colleagues have got individual clinics, one-to-one, in 5 sectors: personal security, digital security, professional security, psychological physical security and legal security. And this means that we've met with them one individually, face to face, with the experts. Each of those journalists who have worked with this have will be worked on their CVs in personal CVs and in Arabic and English in order to be able to compete on the Arab and regional world. And this means that many of them have become independent because there are not enough institutions that can take them in. 30% of fact checkers we've worked with them for long months, and regretfully, the percentage of fact checker females, something that needs to be enhanced. 35% of females work in the fact checking, so we need to do something about this. 30% of them have been working with us in investigations and projects related to ARIJ. More than 30 webinars, and the last one Firas was moderating it. Abdallah Maksour and Khalid Salim, they were the training and trainees. They did not attend the World Cup, and they were attending the team from Djibouti, from everywhere. And so we hope that later on they would be with us in this hall. More than 6 of the labs and incubators that we've worked on. And I here, thankfully, especially Ma'an Incubator and the Memory of Egypt. So we brought with us investigative journalists, fact checkers, researchers, and legal individuals, and asked them, what is it that you can come up with, all of you? And they said, we will come up with a database for studies on human rights in Egypt over the past 10 years in both Arabic and English. So we said, well, that's a crazy idea, but why? Fine. So in 6 months, they launched this platform, and now we have a complete center for all these studies about human rights that includes more than 1,000 studies, 700 in Arabic and 300 in English, and they could be searched completely. As for the diploma of data journalism, last year 600 people applied to compete over 50, and so there are many of them who are really concerned that they did not get it. This is the 4th year for data journalism. It will be presented for 6 years. And our colleague Muqbal, who we really regretted having him the first time, second time, the third time, he was shocked and he said, I can't believe it. So we need to work and hard in order to get all these opportunities. There are 4 discussions that we worked on in 2 years about who is responsible for human rights and for regional meetings. And for the first time, there will be a regional meeting for fact checkers in person and not digital after 3 digital meetings on the Arab world level. 8 courses on ARIJ Academy and safe space and learning. Over a few courses could be done in 1 hour, 3 in digital security and fact checking, 2 in I will not remain silent, 4 campaigning the digital harassment, and another about whistleblowers. This is the first in the Arab world in this sector, and you can all access it freely and get certificates in remote learning. And usually these are the prerequisites for trainings with ARIJ. And more than 30 MOUs were signed with fact checkers, institutions, and initiatives. And Firas has also mentioned the signing of this with the Oxford University, and this took us 6 months in order to be able to sign this agreement and MOU. So all these achievements, and our colleagues know, our colleague Saeed did not sleep for the past 3 days. And if we mention these courses to him, I don't know what will happen. And this achievement, 35 investigative reports were produced and posted, 30 podcasts and 50 fact-checking reports. And I'm very happy to say that COVID is gone, so that or maybe it's not fully gone, but we don't want to mention it in order that this year to send did on the map more than 14 colleagues from ARIJ to send them to participate in conferences around the world to raise the voice of independent journalism, investigative journalism, fact-checking, and the Arab voice, and where our colleague Huda Osman have attended the participation in Latin America about in Scoop, إطار منى سراج فرح جلاد, in Raif Badawi Award in Germany, our colleague Zain Al-Hamouri and other colleagues who were able to raise our voice, to take our voice to around the world. I will say that in this hall, I feel that the slogan should be yes to an independent media, but Arisians, they always support this, that you together, all of you together, is what makes this future. We will not be pessimistic despite all what is happening. For the past 15 years, ARIJ have started to train journalists, investigative journalists, and it has become a community that supports each other. And nowadays, 3 years ago, we started with a promising society of fact checkers. And this year, and for the first time, we will merge in our trainings fact checkers along with investigative journalists. And we support all whistleblowers who be with us and lead us to raise our voice where we are meant to raise our voice. And that's why we were in one dimension, investigative journalism. Now it's a triangle. Investigator, just fact checker, and whistleblower. And that's why after 15 years of the ARIJ's age, the slogan goes from one dimension to 3 dimensions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rawan. This is a forum that gets the virtuality with in-person. It's an hybrid forum. The participants would, in the virtual world, would have the opportunity to send their questions written and audiovisual, and they would have interpretation in both English and language and sign language since 3 years. Every day, the activities of this forum would start at 9 a.m. and until 6 p.m. Amman time, with Arijian talents tomorrow, Saturday at 8 p.m. And therefore, it's an opportunity for you to express your talents. You might be surprised with some talents. In the meantime, Sunday, at the same time, we will have an Arab music Halim night on Sunday, and at the end we will have the awards to know the answer to the 1 million question, who would be obtaining or gaining the ARIJ award for the best investigative reports. Let's work together, one hand and heart against all misuse of authority, corruption, nepotism, hatred, and exclusion. In order, just for the sake of democracy, accountability, and protection for human rights, protecting each and every one's rights to access credible information. Me, Sajja, and on behalf of ARIJ, the ARIJ team, and all our partners and supporters, we announce the launching the 5th version of under the title Independent Media.